No, I can talk through this first. But a good friend of mine named Tom Sullivan has a phrase he likes to use all the time. It's, what do you mean by that? So as we go through these processes, you sit through any presentation, you sit through any type of vendor evaluation, you talk about any topic, everything that we do in individuals, we have context. Our history, puts a lens over what we see or what we think we see and what we hear. So I encourage you through everything that I say I do and anybody else says or does in the product space or what they're doing as it relates to their company or whatever, always ask the question, what do you mean by that? So to follow through with that in a little fun exercise, I figured we'd start you off by practicing and looking at, by introducing me, we'll look at my email footer and say, what do you mean by that? So start off with, Glenn Aydell, that's my name. So, yeah. So when he sees senior, what do you mean by that? Well, it just means I'm old. Expert, wow, that's an intimidating title, but what do you really mean by that? Any of you that have seen the 7 Red Lines? If you haven't, go Google it. But basically what it means is I'm a lot more comfortable around technology and people than I am around people. So cybersecurity, well, we all kind of understand what that realm is. It's typically associated with your IT-ish functions. Now, automation security, wow, that's an interesting term. What does that mean? Well, actually, that's just a term that we made up. I think this may be the wrong presentation because I'm having to click multiple times. Is it the 6 or is it the 4? That's okay. We'll get through it. Well, it may impact it later when we get to the other stuff. Technical expertise, that is the team that I'm part of underneath Keith Sherry's group, where we support 120 plus sites in North America with different functions. One of those functions being automation, security, industrial communications. GCERT, this is our IT wing of our cyber emergency response team. Why that's important is it ties directly into the slide. The GTAS, this is a role that's on the automation side that is serving a similar function, but it's the branch out to the sites to help support them with automation security type topics. And then all this other stuff, that's just a bunch of acronyms to make management think I'm worthy of the expert title. So when we talk about security operations centers, BASF has embraced a concept of a cybersecurity defense center, and it's similar to and modeled after our firefighters and our corporate security defense center, where they deal with fire, physical security, building intrusions and alerts, and they have a defense center for that. We have a similar layout for the cybersecurity side of the house. And the mission of the Cybersecurity Defense Center is it's a team of security experts responsible for the security incident handling and prevention in order to protect BASF assets from cyber attack. So that's the mission. Yeah, this is the wrong presentation. Can we get the other one up? Okay, thank you. So the Cybersecurity Defense Center, we all know the terminology of the phrase, good people following good processes with good products will give you good results. So let's walk through what we have from a Cybersecurity Defense Center purpose in this as it relates to this. So from a people perspective, we have 3 tiers of support. Our tier 1 support is a completely outsourced team of 13 individuals that handle our tier 1 support. Tier 2 is a hybrid team. We have 3 internal and 5 external individuals that they're centrally located in the Cyber Defense Center. And then we have our Tier 3, which is a regionally diverse team. And those are the experts that really dive into the more difficult incidents that we see. We've got 9 of those, 2 in North America, 1 in South America, 5 in Europe, and 1 in Southeast Asia. So we got the people, doing a good job with the people. Then we look at the processes. As events come into our environment and are fed into our SIEM. We have rules that trigger alerts. Those alerts are handled by our tier 1 support team. It's a 24/7 team. They follow standard operating procedures for handling those events as they come in, or those alerts as they come in. If they receive something that doesn't have a SOP, they escalate. Our tier 2 support will then take that information, and they'll add context, add business context to it, and find out more about how that alert may or may not impact our business. After a certain timing, there's an escalation procedure. If the tier 2 cannot handle it, it may get escalated into an actual incident. Those incidents are handled by our tier 3 support. So we got the people, we got the processes. What about the products? I'm not going to go into a whole lot of the individual products, but just a picture that I stole from our Cyber Defense Center team, showing that we have a lot of visibility down into a lot of the layers of our environment, as well as sharing partners with partner sharing agreements with other companies, so that we can receive indicators of compromise or receive information, threat intelligence information from outside sources, and apply that to our internal assets. So we've got the people, we've got the processes, we've got the products. I could stop the presentation right now and you would say, wow, BASF is stellar. They're doing a great job. And on this side of it, I would have to agree with you. I personally think that we have a very, very good team. We have good internal, external resources, a good process flow, and everything seems to work to protect BASF. We've had a lot of success in protecting our IT assets. But that's on the IT side. This is where you got to say, what do you mean by that? On the OT side, it's a little different. And any of you guys that know the IT/OT side of the house, you start breaking this down. As I was talking, you were probably thinking through, okay, how do they get these incident information from these lower levels up to a SIEM? How do they respond to? How do they communicate to the sites? How do they deal with all this stuff? Well, that's where we kind of break it down into, I took a stolen image from that kind of aligns with our mindset of our layered architecture, tying it to the ISA 95 model. And so we've got the 4 levels of our environment, the level 4 being the business network, and the service platform is all IT. Our IT organization provides that service platform. From an allowed communication, that level 4 is allowed to talk up 1 level and down 1 level. So that's the consistent model we have. Anything wherever you are in our environment, you can only talk up or down 1 level. Level 3, that is a term that we created back 2002, I think it was, to represent an internal DMZ, an intranet DMZ. And it kind of sits where people focus on the MES layer. But a lot of people put an MES layer, and then above that they'll put a DMZ. We kind of combine the two in what we do. And in that environment, we have the ability to share IT and OT components. Our IT guys can put components there. Our OT guys can put components there. It's kind of a shared platform, and so we have shared resources and shared services. Again, it can talk up 1 level and down 1 level. And then we have what we call our industrial network. The key that we want to point out here is BASF has many sites, and in each site you may have many plants. So this industrial level is more of a site level OT responsibility. Then we get down to the actual plant itself, and the level 1 environment, we consider that plant level responsibility. So what do you mean by that? Why does this, in a security operations center? Well, as it relates to the Cybersecurity Defense Center, what's in scope right now as we are speaking is levels 4 and level 3. What's out of scope right now is level 2 and below. You may ask, okay, well, why would you say that? Why would those that be out of scope? Well, when we look at the architecture of BASF, and I assume many other companies, you have this level 4, which tends to be very standardized. Your IT computers, they get rolled out on a regular basis. You've got patching, you've got all of these things. It's very easy to put in indications or monitor things that are happening in that environment. When you start moving down in that model, though, level 3, it's relatively similar and somewhat flexible. So you still have some rules and some constraints there, Similar systems, usually your normal PIM systems or your alarm management systems, providing visibility of that stuff to the enterprise as opposed to what the operators are using. So this is away from the floor. This is everything above, at level 3 and above, can disappear and you still make product, is essentially our philosophy. Down at the shop floor, levels 2 and level 1, you have a diverse systems. At the same site, you may have multiple DCSs from different vendors, aging from, just put in to 40 years, old. So a lot of diversity there, so it makes it a little more difficult. How am I doing on time, Rob? So from people, processes, and products, we kicked off a automation security roadmap. About 2 years ago, we started on this journey. We're about 2 years in. We're getting some traction. So from a people perspective, the vast majority of our budget for our AS roadmap is in the training and awareness and training aspect. But also tied in there are staffing. We're bringing people on from both on the IT side and on the OT side to make sure that we have equal representation in this. So we bring on OT expertise and train them security stuff, bring on IT expertise and train them on the OT side. The processes, what we're trying to do is align where we can. So our IT guys have a lot of good processes. Our corporate security guys have a lot of good processes with regard to incident handling. So what we're doing is trying to tie all three of those together, IT, OT, and corporate security and incident handling. We're also doing a lot more collaboration, making sure we have regular meetings with IT, OT, and corporate security so we stay in alignment with those processes. And then lastly, products. We're putting together a solution catalog that makes available approved solutions. Instead of every time a site wants to use a different tool or product or whatever, they have to come and get approval and get it vetted and get the exception or whatever. We're putting together a solution catalog of approved solutions, whether it's for remote access, for incident handling, for whatever the tool is. We're putting together a complete approved list so that they can utilize that. I'm not going to read all this. I just want to highlight a few things in closing. When you start considering what you're going to do, what your company is going to do for Security Operations Center, make sure you do it on a risk-based and a business case. Their risk-based approach, and make sure the business case is for it. We have a lot of things that we see coming from the IT side with good intentions. They're wanting access to everything. They're wanting data from everywhere. And it doesn't necessarily make sense to have somebody sitting in, Indonesia, manning a security operations center, receiving a failed login attempt on a DCS system. He has no context to it. He has no way of really knowing. We've got way too many plants for that to really add value. We need that guy at the plant to know that. We need him to take action on it, but the guy sitting off-site in a third party doesn't need to know it. Whatever you put in, make sure that you're evaluating, is the solution you're putting in adding more risk than it's mitigating? So increasing communication flow down to your lower levels tends to increase risks. So make sure you're evaluating that. Make sure that you're not having self-inflicted damages, self-inflicted wounds where we patch things or push things, or we have some a good idea that then once it gets pushed down to the shop floor, you may cause some incidents. And then evaluate what makes sense for your company. BASF has a vastly different architecture and layout than a utilities company or automotive manufacturing. So make sure that what solution you're looking at, what tools you're looking at fit your particular needs. And that's it.